Now, I want to talk more about this and what is happening in the Middle East, especially talks of a regime change. I want to welcome to the show Dr. Sascha Sheehan. He's a professor and the associate dean of the College of Public Affairs at the University of Baltimore. He brings, a decade of deep expertise on U.S.-Iran policy, on counterterrorism. Dr. Sheehan, thanks for being here. Can you address the National Council of Resistance of Iran and their calls for a regime change from within, and how credible and effective is their internal support?
Stella, it's great to be with you. President Trump made headlines yesterday by announcing that he'll decide whether the U.S. military will intervene directly in the growing conflict between Israel and Iran within 2 weeks. I'll be honest in acknowledging that I'm not optimistic that the supreme leader will suddenly change his stripes. But President Trump has been consistent and done what presidents should do. He's offered Iranian authorities a diplomatic off-ramp, that is the full, complete, and verifiable dismantlement of their nuclear program. But I think it's important to acknowledge that the nuclear issue is just one part of a much larger problem in Iran, and I suspect that White House officials understand this. You're correct that within Iran, there is an alternative to the ruling theocracy. There is an indigenous opposition that's been in existence for some time. They have a 10-point plan that prioritizes respect for the rule of law, respect for human rights, and the goal of overseeing a non-nuclear republic that is at peace with regional partners and global powers. They do have an intricate network of resistance units on the ground inside Iran, of resistance units that have, for decades, shared intelligence with Western powers, but have also organized in direct opposition to the ruling elite in Iran. And so I suspect that at this juncture, White House officials and many in the U.S. government are looking carefully at whether or not they could seize this moment in time, this inflection point, and ultimately rule a future republic of Iran that was at peace with the United States.
Dr. Sheehan, what type of government would NCRI like to see after the fall of the regime? Is there like a unity among Iranians who's going to come after?
Well, you're absolutely right. The National Council of Resistance of Iran and its leading constituent organization, the MEK, has a 10-point plan. They are overseen by a president-elect, and they have a plan to oversee the transition to a new democratic republic in Iran. And it's important to acknowledge here that there are clearly individuals in Iran that serve as a distraction, individuals that are kind of a fake opposition, so to speak. The monarchists are among them, and Reza Pahlavi leads those individuals. But his only claim to relevance ultimately is his father's infamy. He's done nothing for democracy in Iran. And he's on record, Stella, saying that Iran's terror-designated IRGC should have a role in the post-theocracy. And this is ultimately unacceptable, because the Shah's brutality, his father's brutality, helped birth the Ayatollahs. And the Iranian people have neither forgotten nor forgiven this betrayal. And so from my perspective, Reza Pahlavi and the monarchists have no seat at the table. The people have flatly rejected monarchy, but also authoritarianism in all of its forms. And they're looking towards an organization like the National Council of Resistance, who could ultimately bring about a republic that was more in keeping with the types of principles that the United States wishes to uphold.
So just to make clear, the NCRI would have someone that opposes Reza Pahlavi, who, by the way, is very popular, too, among many Iranians as well. Do you think that Israel's actions against the regime will help the people of Iran? I mean, from the inside, since 1979, they haven't been successful, and many feel, there needs to be international support like many places have had. I'm not talking about American boots on the ground. I'm talking about demolishing the regime.
Well, I think Israel is certainly, as a sovereign power, doing what it believes needs to be done. And the United States is supporting Israel's actions on the ground, if not providing direct military support at this time. I believe those operations are ultimately useful for the type of pressure the United States wishes to put on the regime, and they're ultimately strengthening the president's negotiating posture. But the fact of the matter is, neither the United States nor Israel wishes to occupy or govern Iran, and we ultimately need a partner to replace the ruling elite in Iran and bring about a brighter future. And that's ultimately what we need to be focused on at this juncture, not just kinetic operations and military deployments, but what a future Iran may look like and who we might partner with.
So analysts are saying that Iran's axis of resistance, like Hezbollah, Iraqi, militias, Hamas, and Houthis, they have largely stayed out of this current conflict with Israel, leaving Tehran, increasingly isolated. What does it say about the regime's current standing in the region? And some experts believe this is coordinated. Which one do you believe? Is Iran telling Hezbollah, stay out for now, telling, Hamas, whoever else, stay out? Where do you stand?
Well, listen, I'm not naive. Iran has long used proxies and rogue regimes to do its bidding. And military force, U.S. military force, should never be taken off the table. But it ultimately must be bounded by strict red lines. Most serious analysts that I know believe that if certain thresholds are crossed, then the United States should join with Israel, and I suspect other powers around the world, to oppose Iranian aggression. If there's a direct attack on U.S. personnel or assets by Iran or its proxies, the United States should become involved. If there are American deaths, whether they be military or civilian caused by Tehran or its proxies, the United States should become directly involved. And certainly if there are credible threats to U.S. embassies, military bases, or key allies, then the United States should become directly militarily involved. But unless those red lines are crossed, our strategy should be to apply pressure, to cripple the regime, and ultimately to empower the Iranian people to bring about regime change from within. Stella, we know what works. The Trump administration's maximum pressure campaign was effective before, and it can be effective again. It cut off oil revenues, it sanctioned hundreds of regime officials, it isolated Tehran diplomatically. But we also know that sanctions alone and these measures that I just outlined aren't sufficient. We need political will to support the force inside Iran that terrifies the regime the most. And the fact of the matter is, when you hold up a scorecard and look at opposition movements across the board, inside and outside Iran, there's one movement that stands above all, and that's the National Council of Resistance of Iran. In fact, a study undertaken by a colleague of mine at the Iran Policy Committee a number of years ago found that the regime in Iran pays 350% more attention to the NCRI and the MEK than all other opposition organizations combined. And that's because it ultimately stands for all of the things that the mullahs do not.
But some would argue that, who do you bring in after the fact? And those within the NCRI would be more of the same. Is that wrong?
More of the same in terms of a continuation of the Ayatollah?
Yes. Part of the government.
I've never heard that before. I mean, if you look at their 10-point plan and you look at what they've stood for decades, you couldn't find a movement that is in stronger opposition to the ruling regime in Iran than the NCRI and the MEK.
What is your take on nuclear weapons? President Trump just came out again. He was just speaking again and saying that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. He was asked about the intelligence community, and he says the intelligence community is wrong. What is your take on the nuclear weapons in Iran currently?
Oh, well, there's no question. Iran's nuclear ambitions are not peaceful. You need not take President Trump's word for it or Benjamin Netanyahu's word for it. You need only look at IAEA reports and open source intelligence estimates that again and again show that the Iranian regime for quite some time has been engaged in kind of a cat and mouse game in terms of pursuing nuclear enrichment and trying to achieve or secure nuclear weapons. They realize that they can consolidate their influence, not just within the country, but within the region and around the world by achieving this. And so I do agree with both President Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu that the Iranian regime cannot be allowed to secure these weapons. It would be a terrible thing for peace and stability in the world.
Dr. Ivan Sascha Sheehan, a professor and associate dean of the College of Public Affairs at the University of Baltimore, who brings a lot of knowledge when it comes to what is happening in Iran. We thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Stella. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
For all our viewers asking where One America News is heading in the future, we would like to introduce you to OAN Live. OAN Live is the best way to stay up to date on all of the hard-hitting, straight-shooting, national and international headlines. And the best part is, OAN Live is only $4.99 per month. All the credible, honest, unbiased reporting One America News offers at a fraction of the cost of cable. Just go to OANN.com to easily sign up for OAN Live and stay informed.